When people think about role-playing games, they usually imagine the vast open worlds and the epic massive story, overcoming yourself, defeating evil, saving the world. But if you've ever actually played an RPG, you know the real story is much more repetitive. Hours spent fighting the same bugs in Viridian Forest, running through the dungeon over and over for a little bit more XP, fighting that one mini-boss for its rare rewards. This is called grinding, and most of the time, it feels like a necessary chore. What if grinding isn't just filler? What if grinding is actually a narrative device, one that shapes how we understand a game's world and its characters? Grinding is a form of storytelling. Its repetition is not a break from the narrative, but a major part of it. Through repetition, effort, and system-driven meaning, grinding conveys themes that traditional cutscenes can't. Ian Bogost is a prominent scholar in game studies, and his famous article, The Rhetoric of Video Games, introduces a major concept called the procedural rhetoric. This is the idea that mechanics themselves communicate ideology. The games make claims through more than the conventional ways, but also procedures. Grinding is procedural rhetoric in its purest form. When a game requires you to repeat battles to progress, it is making a statement about effort and growth. In Persona 3, leveling up is not just a gameplay loop. It reinforces one of the main themes of the game. Self-improvement is slow, exhausting, and ritualistic. The characters all start from nothing and awaken a power that only they can use, and they need to harness to save the world. It takes effort and time to improve. This is further demonstrated by Persona's famous calendar system. Each day isn't just 20 minutes of playtime, it's a whole day. A play session is a whole week or a month. We actually control these characters' lives and we see them level up and grow in real time. We see how long their journey is and how long it takes for them to harness, control, and master their abilities to save the world. Grinding is not always thematically smooth. Sometimes it creates tension between what the story says and what the player does. Some would call this ludonarrative dissonance. The gameplay does not reflect what is happening in the story. Martina Nunes would say this is where the concept of ludonarrative complexity comes into play. In her article, Ludonarrative Complexity in Video Games, A Double Boomerang, Nunes argues that games aren't defined by one single narrative mode. They weave together multiple story channels, visuals, player-driven actions, mechanics, and authored narrative segments. When these channels interact, you get complexity, and sometimes contradiction. This is how ludonarrative complexity was born. Grinding can often be one side of this contradiction. Imagine your world is ending. You have to go and stop Sephiroth from stealing the black materia and destroying the planet. It's life and death. Everyone is relying on you. Time is running out. But wait, there's a special materia I get if I finish all the races, and I want to be max level, and there's a better sword I can get. I haven't done all the mini-games. This is ludonarrative complexity that battles tension, and this is where the story's urgency collides with the player's reality. This tension between urgency and repetition isn't a flaw, it's a narrative effect. As Nunes points out, this complexity reveals how games challenge our expectations of linear storytelling. Grinding stretches time. We can create our own narrative pacing. We can choose what matters to us and make it our own journey. To broaden this perspective, we can look to one Jesper Juhl, who focuses on failure in games. Juhl argues in his paper, The Art of Failure, that video game failure has a unique emotional effect. We hate it, but we seek it in order to overcome it. This generates meaning and satisfaction. Grinding thrives on this dynamic. In order to overcome failure, we have to put real human time and effort into getting stronger and better. Then, we have concrete evidence that we have improved. We gain an emotional investment through the time and energy we put in. When we level up and we're able to defeat the boss that stumped us before, it's not just a mechanical reward, it's character development. Grinding translates time into identity. The character becomes a record of the player's labor. Sabrina Skandura finds that grinding uses the rhetorical device of Ploke, and she discusses this in her paper, Fight, Heal, Repeat. Ploke is the deliberate repetition of actions to shape how players think and feel about a game world. In games such as RuneScape, Hades, and Animal Crossing, she shows how repeated kills, resource gathering loops, and level up rituals are not mere padding, but communicate values of endurance, routine, and self-improvement. Anyone who's leveled up farming in RuneScape knows the cadence she describes. When players are grinding, the game is asking, are you willing to persist? Are you willing to keep going? So what does this all mean for how we understand RPGs? Grinding is easy to dismiss as padding or filler. It shows the plot can interrupt pacing and forces players into repetitive tasks. But this view assumes that narrative only happens in cutscenes and dialogue. Bogost, Nunez, and Jewel showed us otherwise. Grinding is narrative, not just in the traditional sense. It communicates themes through procedure, it creates ludonarrative complexity through tension, it gives meaning through failure. Grinding makes the player feel the narrative, not just watch it. In many RPGs, the most meaningful moments aren't the climactic cutscenes. They are the hours spent in between building character, leveling up, and becoming the hero needed to overcome the next challenge. These actions are not outside the story. They are the story.